Why are so many powerful nations standing behind the Philippines against China? What is really happening in the South China Sea that makes countries from different corners of the world raise their voices? Did you know that major powers are emotionally and diplomatically backing the Philippines for justice, peace, and maritime rights? From Europe to Asia, and from North America to Oceania, nations are showing where they stand. In this emotional and shocking video, we'll uncover the top 10 countries that support the Philippines in its rising tensions with China. Stay tuned to see who stands firm and why. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and watch till the end to know the whole truth. Number 10. Germany. Germany may be far from the South China Sea, but distance hasn't stopped it from showing support for the Philippines. Why would a European country care about a conflict thousands of kilometers away? Because Germany believes in a world ruled by laws, not by force. In 2020, and again in 2023, Germany officially backed the 2016 Hague ruling, which invalidated China's vast territorial claims in the South China Sea. It stressed the importance of upholding international law, especially the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which China signed but continuously defies. Emotionally speaking, Germany has reminded the world that silence in the face of aggression is complicity. The Philippines is not alone. Germany's voice may be soft, but it carries the weight of justice and history. Berlin has also joined naval drills and freedom of navigation operations with allies to push back against Chinese dominance. Why? Because when one country is bullied, the rest must speak up. Germany knows too well the horrors of unchecked power from its own past, and it won't let history repeat. Number 9. United Kingdom. Why is the UK, another nation across the globe, standing with the Philippines? The answer is shocking, because China's actions threaten the rules that keep the world in balance. The UK has repeatedly voiced support for the 2016 tribunal ruling that favored the Philippines. But it's more than words. British warships like Her Majesty's ship Queen Elizabeth have sailed through the South China Sea as a direct show of force, signaling that freedom of navigation is non-negotiable. The UK's Foreign Office has publicly criticized China's militarization and coercion tactics. It has called for all nations, including China, to respect the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and the rights of coastal states like the Philippines. Why does this matter? Because if one powerful country can ignore global law, then no nation is truly safe. Emotionally, the UK's stance sends hope to Filipinos who feel abandoned or overpowered. It says, "You are not alone," and it tells China, "The world is watching." For a country once known for its global empire, the UK now fights for fairness, not domination. And in this fight, the Philippines has a reliable friend across the seas. Number 8. Canada. Canada's support for the Philippines may surprise many, but it runs deep and emotional. In a world filled with geopolitical bullying, Canada has chosen to stand with what is lawful and just. In recent years, Canadian officials have condemned China's aggressive actions in the West Philippine Sea, calling them dangerous and destabilizing. Why does Canada care? Because it believes small nations have the same rights as powerful ones. Canada has repeatedly stated that the 2016 Hague ruling must be respected. Ottawa believes in United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and calls on all countries to follow international law. It's about defending the very idea of fairness. Canadian warships have also patrolled the South China Sea with allies, proving their stance isn't just words, it's action. In 2023, a Canadian naval ship conducted joint exercises with the Philippine Navy, a strong emotional message of solidarity. What makes this support even more touching is Canada's large Filipino community. Over 1 million Filipinos live there, and their safety, voice, and identity are part of Canada's fabric. Canada's support isn't just political, it's personal. When one Filipino boat is harassed, Canada hears the pain. And when one nation is bullied, Canada shows up. Number 7, Singapore. A small island nation with huge economic power has taken a brave stance, but why would it risk tension with China, its largest trading partner, to support the Philippines? Because even a small voice can echo loud when it speaks the truth. Though cautious in tone, Singapore consistently defends international law and the freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has emphasized that disputes should be settled peacefully and lawfully, not through threats. That's emotional maturity on the global stage. Singapore is deeply concerned that any conflict in the region will destroy peace and ruin economies, including its own. That's why it calls for respect for the Hague ruling and supports ASEAN unity behind the Philippines. In 2023, Singapore joined naval drills with the US and the Philippines, despite knowing it could upset China. It did so with quiet strength. Why? Because being neutral doesn't mean being blind. Emotionally, Singapore's stance tells smaller nations, we must protect each other. The Philippines is not isolated, it's part of a regional family. And Singapore, though small, stands tall for justice. Number 6. Malaysia. Did you know Malaysia also faces Chinese aggression in its waters? That's why Malaysia strongly supports the Philippines, because they share the same pain. In fact, Chinese Coast Guard ships have harassed Malaysian oil exploration vessels in recent years, just as they've blocked Filipino fishermen. Malaysia has publicly backed the 2016 Hague ruling and rejected China's 9-line claims. In 2021, Malaysia even filed a formal note to the UN, calling China's claims baseless. That was a bold and emotional act of defiance. Despite its economic ties to China, Malaysia has drawn a line. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has said Southeast Asian nations must stand together to protect their maritime rights. And Malaysia's Navy is quietly cooperating with the Philippines and other allies to patrol disputed waters. Malaysia also supports stronger ASEAN action. Emotionally, Malaysia and the Philippines are like siblings facing the same bully, bonded not just by geography, but by struggle. When the Philippines is threatened, Malaysia understands, and it speaks up. The world sees that unity, and China should too. Number 5. Indonesia. Indonesia may not always shout, but its message is clear. It stands with the Philippines. Why? Because the same bully knocking at Manila's door is also testing Jakarta's patience. China's illegal claims also overlap with Indonesia's waters near the Natuna Islands. In 2020, Indonesia sent warships and fighter jets to face Chinese vessels. The message was shocking. Even without a formal alliance, Indonesia will protect what is rightfully its own and support others who do the same. President Joko Widodo has called for peaceful resolution based on international law and declared firm support for the 2016 Hague ruling. He also stated that China's 9-line has no legal basis. That is emotional and bold. Indonesia has joined naval exercises with the US and the Philippines, showing that solidarity is more than words. Why does it matter? Because when neighbors unite, even the loudest threats start to lose their power. For Indonesians and Filipinos, this fight is about dignity, freedom, and legacy. Indonesia is telling the world, we won't bow to pressure, and we won't let our friends stand alone. And number 4, Vietnam. Vietnam's support for the Philippines comes not just from politics, but from shared pain and history. Why? Because Vietnam too has suffered under Chinese maritime bullying. Vietnamese fishermen have been attacked, ships sunk, and coastlines threatened. In 2014, China placed an oil rig in Vietnamese waters, sparking violent protests and global outrage. Since then, Vietnam has been vocal about its stance, backing the Hague ruling, even though it wasn't a party to the case. That's how emotionally invested Vietnam is. Vietnam and the Philippines both reject China's 9-line. In fact, the two nations have held direct talks to strengthen cooperation and defense in disputed areas. In 2023, they agreed to set up a military communication line to avoid accidents and strengthen trust. They are also conducting joint patrols. Why? Because both know that silence invites aggression. Vietnam's message is strong and clear. No one owns the sea except the world. For Filipinos, Vietnam's friendship offers comfort and courage. It's the emotional bond of neighbors who have walked the same painful path and chosen to walk it together. Number 3, Japan. Japan's support for the Philippines is not just political, it's deeply emotional. Why would Japan, once an enemy during World War II, now be one of the Philippines' strongest defenders? Because history has changed, and so has loyalty. Japan has condemned China's actions in the South China Sea, calling them illegal and destabilizing. It has provided patrol boats, military equipment, and financial aid to the Philippines. In 2023, the two countries signed a landmark defense agreement that allows Japanese troops to train and assist in Philippine territory. That's not just cooperation, it's trust. Japan knows that if China gains full control of the South China Sea, the entire region's freedom and economy are at risk. It stands firmly behind the 2016 Hague ruling and constantly urges peaceful, legal solutions. Emotionally, Japan has expressed sorrow for its past and shown unwavering support in the present. It's a powerful symbol of redemption and friendship. Filipinos now look at Japan not as a former occupier, but as a guardian of peace. Together they say, never again will we be silenced. Number 2, Australia. Australia's voice is loud, clear, and emotional. Why is this island continent so passionately supporting the Philippines? Because it knows that the fall of one nation's rights is a danger to all. Australia has strongly backed the 2016 Hague ruling and criticized China's illegal and coercive behavior. It has conducted joint patrols and freedom of navigation missions in the West Philippine Sea. In 2023, it signed a historic defense agreement with the Philippines, allowing stronger military cooperation and strategic planning. Australia has also trained Filipino troops and offered intelligence sharing to counter growing threats. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese stated, "We stand with the Philippines as partners for peace and stability." But this is more than strategy, it's emotional. Australia sees the pain of Filipino fishermen, the fear in coastal communities, and the bravery of those standing up to China's might. It refuses to stay silent. Australia is telling the Philippines, you matter, your rights matter, and we are here. In a world where power often crushes truth, Australia chooses to defend it. Number 1, United States. The United States is the Philippines' most powerful and emotional ally. Why? Because this partnership is more than treaties, it's about shared values and decades of friendship. When China ramps up its aggression, the U.S. responds with strength. In 2023 and 2024, the U.S. deployed warships and surveillance planes to the South China Sea, warning China that any attack on Philippine vessels would invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty. That's not just a promise, it's a shield. America has supplied military aid, advanced weapons, and intelligence to help the Philippines defend itself. In fact, joint military drills like Balikatan have grown larger each year. Emotionally, the U.S. sees the Philippines not as a pawn, but as a partner worth defending. This alliance is based on courage, sacrifice, and belief in freedom. The U.S. doesn't just stand with the Philippines, it stands in front, shoulder to shoulder. For many Filipinos, the American flag next to theirs offers hope, strength, and the message, you are not alone. So now you know who truly stands with the Philippines in these difficult times. The fight isn't just for land or sea, it's for justice, dignity, and peace. Like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts, and remember, you are not alone in this fight. Thanks for watching.